The greatest trick Sherlock Holmes pulled wasn't the overarching mystery. It was hiding the terrifying reality of how Robert Downey Jr. used the silence between words to subjugate his rivals. You can hear the hierarchy shift when Moriarty stops tapping his glass and just stares. Human beings are pathetic, compulsive liars. Our words construct a fragile armor, but our biology will always betray us. Holmes succeeds because he doesn't listen to the lie. He listens to the echo of the heart rate, the dilated pupil, the dry swallow. When we ignore these echoes, we voluntarily surrender our power to those who don't. That is why today we are opening the logic chamber to break down the 5 clues to read anyone instantly, so you can see the strings before they pull yours. Yours are the strings that society desperately wants to grasp, in a world where power is an illusion built on noise. In the smog-choked industrial arteries of Victorian London, the baseline hierarchy is not determined by wealth or title. It is determined by the capacity for violence and the ability to predict it. Lord Blackwood wields supernatural terror like a butcher's blade. Moriarty orchestrates nations like an invisible, untouchable god. They both rely on a singular premise, that the human animal is terrified of the dark and easily distracted by grand theatrical lies. The masses walk through the mud, entirely blind to the machinery of their own destruction. Holmes disrupts this status quo. He refuses the grand illusions. He strips the world down to its bare, shivering biology. He does not play their game. He plays the player. Clue 1. The temporal fracture. In the grime of the bare-knuckle fighting pit, a brute swings wildly. Holmes doesn't look at the fists. He watches the tilt of the jaw, the fraction of a second where the eyes flit to the intended target before the heavy muscle catches up. He anticipates the spit, the swing, the shattered knee. What looks like physical dominance is actually temporal theft. He is stealing the man's future by reading his present biology. The brute's intent bleeds out before his body can act. We watch him perform the autopsy of a living man, but the truth is, he is dissecting the man's confidence. This is the same wall we keep reinforcing in our own lives, pretending our intentions are safely hidden behind our teeth. But the eyes always snap to the exit before we run. Because the eyes betray the escape route, the body must forcefully try to mask the rising panic that immediately follows. Clue 2. The artificial metronome. When Irene Adler walks into 221B Baker Street, the air changes. She brings the scent of danger, but Holmes ignores the perfume. He watches the cadence of her chest, the shallow, rapid intake of breath she tries to conceal beneath her corset and her wit, the forced stillness of her hands. On the surface, it seems like playful seduction. Beneath it, it is a desperate attempt to regulate an escalating heart rate. She weaponizes her charm to avoid revealing the sheer terror of being caught in his web. We already know the weight of this calculation, the exhausting performance of acting calm when the chest is a cage of wild birds. Holmes tracks the breathing. The lie requires oxygen. The truth is suffocating. When the breath grows thin and erratic, the nervous system demands a release valve, a way to bleed off the excess energy before the skin cracks open. Clue 3. the pacifying leak. Professor Moriarty sits at a table in Paris. He is the architect of European war, yet he compulsively taps his glass. He adjusts his cuff. He traces the rim of a cup. Holmes sits across from him, entirely still, cataloging these micro touches. Moriarty's intellect is flawless, but his meat is flawed. Behind every tap lies the fear that the chaos he controls will turn around and swallow him. These gestures aren't random. They are pacifiers. The friction of skin against glass is a desperate, unconscious attempt to soothe a frayed nerve. The brilliance of this observation is that no one ever suspects the devil needs comforting. Every time we reach to touch our own neck during a difficult conversation, we are broadcasting the exact moment our armor fails. And once the armor is cracked, the predator knows exactly how close they can get without triggering the prey's final, desperate defense. Clue 4. The proxemic surrender. Watch how Holmes moves through a room of Scotland Yard inspectors. He doesn't just stand near them, he invades their negative space. He steps half an inch too close to Lestrade, forcing the inspector to subtly lean back to shift his weight. That millimeter of retreat is everything. It is a silent, physical confession of submission. By yielding the space, Lestrade hands over the reins of the room. He does this so that a direct confrontation can never happen. We feel this fracture in our own bones every time we step aside in a hallway, mistaking politeness for survival. Distance is the only place where the weak feel safe from the strong. When you control the space, you force the final facade to the surface where the ultimate truth can no longer be hidden. Clue 5. The asymmetric mask. The final game of chess. The final confrontation. On the balcony over the Reichenbach Falls, Moriarty smiles. It is a terrifying, confident smile. But Holmes looks at the corners of the mouth. The left side pulls a fraction higher. The eyes remain dead, unwrinkled. The smile is asymmetrical. It is fabricated. The true emotion, utter, paralyzing dread, is leaking through the right side of his face. Every time he chooses that smile, he is really choosing to hide the fact that he has already lost. We spend our entire lives terrified of this asymmetry. We practice our masks in the mirror, hoping the world won't see the heavy, dark thing dragging down the corners of our own mouths. We build these false faces to survive, but Holmes sees the split, the manufactured vulnerability. The mask is not freedom. It is the cage we mistake for home. We return to the silence between words. Robert Downey Jr.'s Holmes didn't win because he was smarter. He won because he understood that the silence is where the actual conversation happens, where the breath catches, where the eye darts, where the hands tremble. The great tragedies of our lives occur not because we are lied to, but because we choose to listen to the words instead of the body. Moriarty fell because his biology could not sustain his godhood. We are nothing but blood and reflex, pretending to be rational. If you cannot read the echoes of the skin, you are deaf to the only language that matters. The strings are always there. It's just a matter of who is pulling.